A darker side of Louis Armstrong's legacy is that for a time he was accused of being an Uncle Tom. That name comes from an 1852 novel by Harriet Beecher Stowe called Uncle Tom's Cabin. It implies a person who accepts subservience or caters to the whims of an oppressor, as in a black person who adheres to a stereotype to please or entertain white audiences. Louis was a natural entertainer whose infectious personality endeared him to white audiences, but it wasn't an act, it's just who he was. That perception changed in 1957 when Armstrong took a forceful stand against the government actions in a racially charged incident in Little Rock, Arkansas, which we'll talk about more later. Up until that time, Louis had resisted engaging in politics, although he had certainly experienced the effects of racism for himself. In this moment, though, he spoke up. Some blacks criticized him for not doing it earlier, while others praised him for speaking the truth. He paid a price for his honesty, as some whites were incensed by what they saw as unpatriotic comments and called for a boycott of his recordings and performances. Louis's career got a boost from an unlikely hit in 1964 with Hello Dolly. The recording session in 1963 was the first in 2 years for Louis, and he hadn't had a hit on the charts since 1956. Nobody at the time expected Hello Dolly to be a hit. It was more like a novelty recording, but it skyrocketed and eventually replaced the Beatles' Can't Buy Me Love as #1. That positioned Louis for a happy final decade to his career. Louis loved smoking weed. There's a great story, and I can't confirm the accuracy, about being on an airplane with Vice President Richard Nixon. When Nixon was told that Louis Armstrong was aboard, he went back to speak to him. He told Armstrong that if there was ever anything he could do for him, he shouldn't hesitate to ask. Armstrong replied that he would be honored if the president would carry his trumpet case off the plane and through the airport. Nixon agreed, not knowing that Armstrong's stash was in the case. Armstrong was also a proponent of laxatives as a daily health measure. He favored an herbal blend called Swiss Chris, and he handed it out to everyone he met, including the royal family in England. He signed his letters Swiss Chrisly Yours, and he sent out a card with a picture of him on the toilet captioned, "Leave it all behind you." Despite his star status, Louis maintained a modest lifestyle, living in the same house in Queens, New York for 28 years. That house now acts as a museum dedicated to his life. Louis was an audiophile, and you can see his tape recorder in the picture behind him. This quote sums up an enormous life lived with humility. I never want to be more than I am. What I don't have, I don't need. This quote from Mezz Mezzrow sums up other people's impressions. What a warm, good-hearted, down-to-earth gem of a man was Louis. He never said anything he didn't mean, and he always believed the best about his fellow man. Mezzrow was a colorful character in jazz history. He sold marijuana to the point that weed was sometimes referred to as mezz. He married a black woman, and he proclaimed himself an honorary Negro. When he was busted for possession, he told them he was a light-skinned Negro so that he would be locked up with the black prisoners. He was Armstrong's manager for a short time. Louis Armstrong died in his sleep from a heart attack in 1971, just before his 70th birthday. His doctors had advised him to stop performing, but not wanting to disappoint his fans, he played nearly to the end. His gravestone is marked simply, Satchmo.